computer. Yep.
Thank you very much. Do you have any announcements, Tony?
I do not have any announcement.
I do not, either. You had a chance to review the minutes that Tony put out. With that, I'm gonna ask, yeah, go ahead.
The minutes that were sent out, they did have some blanks. I saved them from Jen's file a little too soon while she was still working on them. So the final minutes have been printed for everyone today. It was just a few things. She was going back into the recording just to verify who had made motions and things like that. So if you looked through the minutes over the weekend, there were some blanks which have been filled in. So that was the only, but nothing of material difference.
Tony, is the date at the top of the minutes, is that correct?
Yeah. May.
What would be the date?
I would have to look, I do not remember exactly when.
I think
May 16th.
Okay, at the top of the minutes, it should read May 16th, 2022. I'll take a motion to approve the amended minutes.
So move.
Motion, Chick Ham made a motion. Do I have a second?
Joe Brandt seconds it.
Any additional corrections, questions regarding the minutes? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Ham, financial report, you have received this as well from Tony on Friday. Chick?
So our financial condition remains healthy and very liquid. When you look at the balance sheet data on the report that's included in the package, you can see we have unrestricted liquidity of a little over $1.1 million. We are at the end of May down to about $46,000 in operating cash. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But we haven't picked up any, significant liabilities. Our receivables are sufficient to cover our payables. No real changes in the complexity of our balance sheet. For the month of May, we had virtually no revenue, did not anticipate any, obviously. We had $17,000 and change in operating expenses against a budget of $27,000. So for the month, we ran a favorable variance of $9,500 and change. So very typical for operating expenses for us to be at that run rate, and no material transactions on the ESCA. On a year-to-date basis, we've taken in a little over $400,000, almost all of which is the support payment we received through our contract with MTPM. Our expenses on a year-to-date basis are $204,000. So if we were closing our books here at the end of May, we'd have a surplus of $199,000. It's $138,000 better than was anticipated in our budget. I think we're in good shape. And at the end of the fiscal year here next month, we will probably look back on this year as one where we're able to add to our ongoing liquidity position. So I think it's good shape there. In other activities, we are in contact with our new auditor. I think field work's going to begin soon. As far as we know, we're well positioned for that. The only recommendation I would make at this point is with a operating cash position of $46,000 and with some known bills going to arrive here soon for the work that's being done on private railroad embankment. And what's the other thing we have? Some ESCO funds. Yeah, we don't want to run into a timing issue. So I think we should transfer $50,000 from our money market account into our operating account. That should more than hold us until we get to a place where we've received this next payment from MTPM. That payment historically has arrived anywhere between mid-June and late July. We just don't want to get caught where we've are pressing up against an overdraft situation. So with that said, I'd be happy to take any questions and would recommend we move $50,000 as a transfer.
Is that a
Okay, you heard
motion?
the- Go ahead.
Yes.
If that's a motion, I'll second it. That's Joe Brandt.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the report, the transfer of $50,000. Any questions for Chip? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Okay, going back, I think there's some discrepancy in the minutes we have reapproved. I don't think they're the correct month. What we'll do is we'll lay over and we'll deal with those in July once we're sure we have the correct minutes in front of us on that.
Are we,
Joe Grant, Tone School.
real quick, are we approved that motion for moving 50,000? Did we also approve the report at the same time? Maybe we did, just
I'm
asking.
sorry, Marion.
I don't remember.
Yes, Mario. Mario
Okay.
asked if, when making a motion to approve the recommendation, if it was also a motion to approve the treasurer's report, and yes, it would be both.
Good question, better answer.
But I did state it.
Okay,
Okay,
Tome
thank you.
School.
Joe Grant.
Tome School. I'm told the tree clearing has been completed around the headmaster's house, and the contractors are updating their assessment and prices of the repairs to the headmaster's roof. So we've made some progress there. At this point, Tony informs me that she has a log for inspections and any activities on site, and that she and her team inspect the campus weekly. And I will let her elaborate on the metal theft investigation.
Because it is an ongoing investigation, we obviously can't discuss a whole lot of details, but everything was turned over to the detectives at the sheriff's department, and they have narrowed in on a suspects that they believe. Well, once they get all their ducks in a row, I think they'll pursue that. So they will give updates when and where they are able.
Anything you
But
want to
as-
add on the? Go ahead.
Sorry, Joe. As
No, I was
as
gonna
part of
say-
the
Go.
security, we did change all of the codes and all of the gates on the entire site, the BDC codes. The contractors have changed theirs as well, and the tone log is, we do regular checks where our activities aren't changing. We're still going out on the campus several times throughout the week, but this way we have a set log, so if we notice that something seems different, if we now see that there's a breach in a building, or oh, it looks like there's more graffiti, or it looks like, you know, I see a pile of trash by a building, we know someone was there, at least now we just have something in writing that we can kind of reference back to. If something were to happen, it can be turned over to the authorities, but it also is just a way for us to show that we do indeed frequent the campus. And that's myself, Jen, and Brian.
Joe.
That's it.
Any questions for Joe or Tony on Tone School? You received a copy of the environmental report from Mario on Friday. Mario, would you like to make any comments?
Other than to say I added a picture because I know no one would believe that we actually started on the project. So it's good news. We're actually underway, and we also got more good news in that we received some more partial permits to keep working. The landfill stuff's the same, the solar stuff's the same, so not a whole lot to report there, other than we are moving forward on the embankment. Eventually, I will stop talking about it, I promise.
One
Matt doesn't
thing
believe.
I will note in terms of environmental, last week we had our semi-annual inspection of the landfills. And I did let our team know, don't panic, there's part of the fence line that is down, because that 276 fence around the landfill is part of our compliance. But I wanted to let their field team know in advance, it is down because we're installing the water line, and they'll have a temporary fence up. And then they'll have a new permanent fence up. So that is something that will likely be on our inspection report, is that we're missing fencing there.
Any questions for Mario after reviewing the report? That's good news, Mario. Congratulations. Would you update, and it's, technology's not working well, so I'm not hearing very well. Mario, what's your assessment of solar, the potential for solar?
I I think it's very positive. First and foremost, I think from our standpoint, land that we own and probably will continue to own is, the landfill areas. So that's kind of what I'm thinking personally.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay, Tony will now go into the executive director's report, Tony.
Phase one, we heard an update from our development team on phase one. Their progress is going very well, even with the weather that we've had and the rain that we've had. There haven't been any significant issues. They are on schedule for mass grading. That should be completed in the fall. They are on schedule for mass grading of the roads as well. Powers Road, which is the road at the top that runs along building A. That will be the primary focus in terms of finishing for phase one, because Commodore Boulevard, which is Bay Ridge Boulevard, will not be deeded over because it will likely not be in use yet. So they just want to make sure that they're keeping everything in best condition as possible. In terms, the economy has been a topic, obviously, that has come up a lot. While larger buildings are slowing down, we don't see that as a significant concern, given our location and some of the other enticing things that we have. Main topic being the sales and use tax exemption, that enables a huge cost savings on the tenants that end up locating at phase one. We do have the approval for building D from MDE, so the dam safety was able to get their reviews and approvals, and the modification of that dam has been downgraded, so they can now start moving forward on that building as well. Even with all the rain that we've had, there has not been any issues with stormwater management or sediment and erosion control. As you all know, every time it rains, those have to be inspected. We do controlled drains of those ponds when it is in drier conditions, and that is the way that they're engineered. So that way, when we do have a large accumulation of rain, we're not having large flows coming out of those basins. So for phase one, everything is going very well. I would love to, if it would stop raining, so we could hopefully take some folks out so they can see what's going on. We've got some of the retaining walls going in and some of the more detailed items. So concrete footings have been set up. For phase two, we are working.
Excuse me,
Yes.
on phase one, on lot D, have you been in contact with the town of Fort regarding that approval? Because they knew that pond was of concern and was being re-engineered.
Not as far as I don't believe that they have let the town, because the town didn't have to approve anything.
That wasn't my point. It's all public relations. I just want to make sure that the town is aware that sediment pond, that stormwater pond has met all of the requirements as it have been approved. That's all.
Right.
So, okay. I've said it now, so we have the mayor and we have the town administrator, so they've heard that. Phase two.
For phase two, we are working closely with the developer, with MTPM, on the outline of our potential phase two agreement. There has been some preliminary engineering that started on conceptual level planning in phase two in terms of building size. We will not be able to engineer buildings that are quite as large as we have in phase one, which we all expected because of some streams, wetlands, buffers, and topographical conditions with steep slopes. But it looks like we can have buildings ranging from about 375,000 square feet to 800,000 square feet, give or take a little bit. So I know Ken and Reed are working very closely together on that, and then the executive committee is continuing discussions with Ken's team and council on our phase 2 agreement, so that way we can move forward on a phase 2 ESCA and just repeat the process for phase 1.
Let me stop, Tony there. Any questions regarding phase 2 update? And that, in that discussions with the developer Ken now, we continue to discuss the 100 net usable acres that the board is very familiar with. Okay, we'll keep you updated as that discussion goes forward. Infrastructure.
For the sewer line, the vast majority of the sewer line has been installed as we've reported previously. All of the offsite sewer line was installed and 222 was repaved and reopened. They've gotten about a quarter of the water line installed. The main reason that was a little bit delayed was because of that right of way easement access that we had spoken about before. Mass grading on the roads, as I mentioned, has completely started. We've started to look conceptually at infrastructure outside of phase 1. So looking at the phase 2 infrastructure, which would be a connection of Commodore Boulevard, potential access to Tome School, and then a potential alternative accesses for other areas of the park, but very, very high level, very conceptual. Once there's a little bit more detail, then we'll be able to discuss that with the board and bring some more detailed planning.
Security, did you already cover that?
I did not. For security, we've unfortunately had a number of unauthorized access at the site. Over the past 2 weeks, we've had 2 break-ins up here. A tool trailer was broken into and a fair amount of things were taken from there. Some materials have been taken. Our Jeep was broken into. There wasn't a whole lot in there to really be desired, but the instances happened about a week from each other, about a week apart. We did obviously make a report with the sheriff's office, and I'm working with Jeremy, who is the superintendent with Conlin, and we're gonna have some cameras installed up at this part of the site. Mainly, we don't want these contractors to have there will likely not be any issues to any large pieces of equipment or large amounts of materials, but in terms if you've got a small plumbing contractor and their tools get stolen, it really, can really set them back. So we're working together to figure out the best option for that. We'll likely have some cameras facing the main gate over by where they have a trailer, and then we'll have some over here for the BBC trailer as well. So it's an unfortunate event that I don't think anyone is overly surprised, but still we're gonna do our best to try and address that issue.
Questions for Tony on the part of the executive director's report? Tony, that security, the BDC offices were not broken into.
No, none of the actual buildings were broken into. They just cut locks on the trailers and took some tools.
Unfortunately, I have to imagine this is not uncommon on a construction site for this kind of security breach. So we'll look forward to updates on security matters. One thing that before we get into old business, one thing that you did not see, there were some artifacts that were discovered when we were digging up for some possible environment. Can you show these?
So in that burial pit,
She's going to put it.
for phase 1, we've uncovered a few things, a few underground storage tanks, an old building foundation, and then a burial pit. And within this burial pit, we found this material, bowls, an old mug, and an actual tray. These are all from the 1940s, 1950s that were utilized here and were found intact about 20-30 feet down in the ground. And so Jeremy, the superintendent, I'll have to take a picture and send it out. He also found a glass IV bottle with water still in it, and a bottle of aftershave with aftershave still in it that still smelled. Pretty crazy, pretty collection over there, Coke bottles.
Still smelled like what?
When he finds stuff that's intact, he brings it over, because I think it's pretty cool.
We'll eventually get the artifacts to the proper place so they can be displayed. But I saw that metal serving tray,
Yeah,
reminding me of MASH. If you watch MASH reruns, that's what it looked like. And with that,
pretty neat.
okay, old business. We dealt with this last time and we asked Tony to bring back some information on the lease for the copier. Tony, you received this in the email.
So Jen, and I followed up with Tom from Kyocera about some of the questions that the board had, and Jen was so wonderful to put together this memo that answered some of the questions that the board had. This was in your board packet. The first question was about lease terms, and if there are shorter leases. There are, as expected, though, the shorter your lease, the higher your lease fee will be. So those are listed that are the 60 month, as we originally proposed, is about $235 a month. 48 would take it to $239, and 36 would take it to $336. That's obviously a significant jump. So those are the options for the lease. That would be just the lease fee that doesn't account for the printing, which those rates vary. Let me see here. Mario, you had asked about changing Iowa to Maryland, so God forbid if we have any issues, we don't have to travel. Yes, they said that they could make that happen. Question number 3 was about what if the machine becomes outdated, which is the situation that we're currently in with Xerox, and I actually had a conversation with our rep today about that. And these are the responses exactly from Tom, so I'll read his response was that in their world, if a machine is new, when it's installed, it's rare that the technology will progress fast enough beyond its capabilities, but appropriate service and support aids in keeping things current and properly functioning. Even if the machine becomes discontinued, they guarantee service and support for 7 years after discontinuance. But having said that, some organizations do choose a shorter lease to accommodate for that, so that way they can upgrade every few years. And then if a machine is upgraded before a term ends, it would begin a new term and lease, which is exactly the process that we had with Xerox. So a shorter lease could address that and a potential desire for a replacement due to changing needs. So there, when I spoke with Tom about this, his response was the machine, if you have a lease with a machine that has certain services, we need to ensure that you can have those services while you are within that lease. If you end up not liking the machine, that's a bit of a different situation, but as we all know, we're currently with a machine that doesn't provide the services that originally was signed, and we're kind of stuck with it for the time being.
Questions for Tony on her answers, or other questions that you have? Anyone? So are we proposing anything tonight, Tony, or is this just an update for us?
Well, the lease was proposed last session, and the board said they wanted these questions answered before approving the lease. I know that Mario wanted to know we didn't have to travel to Iowa. And a few members were wondering what would happen if we got a new machine. Is that a new lease, or is that a continuation of the lease? We now know if you change the machine, that starts a new lease. They do stand by their products and services for the term of the lease, and these are the options. So the initial proposal was 60 months. We could stick with the 60 month, or we could do 48, or we could do 36.
Okay, so the initial proposal was
60 months.
60-month lease at $234.40 a month.
Mhm.
Okay, you see the 60-month, and then you see the 48, and you see the 36. Do I have a motion for the 60-month lease? I'm sorry, Steve.
Were you gonna say 48?
I was gonna say, it looks like the best deal might be the 48,
Mhm.
since it's only $5
less than the 60, it's 100, in round numbers, it's 101, 36. 48 seems to be the sweet spot.
That's what I
I
thought as
agree.
well. Then
I
you
agree.
Got one shorter year and it's only $5 a month difference.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
Maybe
I'll make
approve
a
the
motion
lease
to go with
for
the
48
48
months at
monthly.
239.61 and change the reference to the state law from Iowa to Maryland.
Okay, you heard Chick's motion. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second Mario.
Thank you, Mario. Second, any further discussion on the lease? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you, it's unanimous. New business, My Bookkeeper is the name of the company contract. It's not Tony's bookkeeper. My Bookkeeper is her company's name. Tony, you received this contract in the email. Good.
This is an updated contract from Kim MacGyver in My Bookkeeper. As you see in the date of the contract, the last time that we reviewed this was in 2019, so it's 3 years ago. And what she is proposing is a new compensation rate. Her current rate from 2019 is $75 per hour. And she has proposed $90 per hour, which is her government rate that she provides to any municipalities. That is the only thing that changes within the contract.
Chick, she communicates a lot with Chick and Tony on the finances. Chick, do you have any comments on Kim?
I think her performance has been outstanding, would highly recommend her, very dependable, very timely. We would have a difficult time replacing the level of service that she provides for us. I think this is extremely reasonable.
Any questions on the My Bookkeeper contract? Do I have a motion?
So move.
Chick made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
Joe,
Joe Brandt.
thank you, Joe. Joe, second. Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. It's unanimous. We have any public comment today? Bridget, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, sure. I'll make a little comment. I'm really excited to see the progression of the project. And looking forward, I had a really interesting tour of TPA, Trade Point Atlantic, last week. And one thing that was an indicator as we move forward is working with the county and maybe the state for transit ability for workforce development. We did see a lot of things at Trade Point Atlantic that was really indicating of how the jobs were secured. So just looking forward in the progress as end users come into the situation, maybe keeping that in mind.
Thank you very much. That's very, very interesting. In my summary comments, you'll notice that the last 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, Jen has sent out an email probably on a Thursday, noting when the office is open, meaning there are people visibly in the physically in the office. Okay, the BDC is open a little more than that, but they could be working remotely and so forth during that time. So I wanted everyone to be aware that the executive committee asked for there to be some official office hours, and with the addition of Jen, and especially if Tony's out on site and there's someone here, it's easy for them to visit. Okay, go ahead, Tony.
The office hours are for board members, the towns, the county, official business. We're not posting them on the website because we don't want to welcome anyone randomly in or anything like that. But that's why they're sent specifically to the board and they're not posted on the website.
The other comment I'll make, pleased that we have formalized our inspection schedules, site inspection schedules of Tone School. So there's a regular patrol the sheriff's department has been very supportive in working with us on the investigation. I'm hoping that Tony's report comes to fruition, that they charge somebody for the potential for steel thefts and so forth that happened on site. And also I'm looking forward to an update on what the contractors can do to help secure the phase 1 site where Tony reported there have been some thefts recently. Our next meeting is July 18th, 3:30. With no objection, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.